I'm Sean Young, and I'm here at St Auban airfield with Tilo Hollighaus, who is flying in E4Glide. It's the third day of E4Glide. Yesterday Tilo won the day, well done, and he's flying his Discus 2C. E4Glide is a fascinating competition because it's utilizing the new technology of electric engines, and you're allowed to use a certain amount of power during the competition flight. And so perhaps, Tilo, you could just start by just telling us a little bit, what are the rules? You know, how does it work and how does it affect the tactics for flying a cross-country race?
Well, as I said already, you are allowed to use the engine for a little bit. So it's about half the size or half the capacity of the battery you can actually use in flight. And the idea is to use this energy in the most intelligent way to simply to make you faster. And there are a lot of different possibilities to do this. I mean, you can either use the engine simply for increasing your climb, you can stretch your glide, you can help searching the energy lines, or you can just go a little bit lower in areas where it would be maybe too dangerous to fly, or the risk to outland would be too high. You can just switch on the engine before you get into trouble and try out if this makes you faster. There are lots of possibilities and it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. So you're flying the 2C, which has got. Just tell us about what the engine it's got in it and what is it.
Well, I mean, it has the classical FES engine as all the other gliders here. It's a fairly strong engine. You could climb a lot. However, in the competition, the idea is not climbing that much. I never use more than half of the possible power you can set. I mean, it's much more the way how to use it, simply to make you faster. Very often, you simply take only about 5 kilowatt. That's about 25% of the maximum output, which is just enough to keep the altitude, to search for lifting lines and so on. That's kind of the part of the idea of this contest.
Okay, and the battery has how much power can it hold in full capacity?
Well, the battery itself has 4.2 kilowatt hours. As I said, you can use here in the contest about half of it.
So 2 kilowatt is what you're permitted to use?
Yes, it depends a little bit on the glider, on the weight of the glider. So a lighter glider can use a little bit less, and a heavier glider, for example, the 2-seaters here, they're allowed to use a bit more. It's a bit complicated rule, but it works out pretty nice.
Yeah, and your glider is. Tell us a little bit about why you chose the 2C as opposed to other people are flying Ventus 3s here.
Yes, well, I personally don't have a Ventus 2. A Ventus 3 with the FES. Well, I have one with as a classical glider. Well, it is our company's glider, the Discus, and I think it's not a bad idea, or it's not a bad. It's a good solution here, the Discus, because we fly with a handicap system, a special handicap system. So we have different diameters at the turn points. So a glider with a lower handicap actually flies less distance, and it works out pretty good. So and sometimes it's quite funny because the better performing gliders, they have to go further. So sometimes they're ahead of you, and then you turn, and you turned already earlier, and then suddenly you're ahead of them. And so it changes sometimes the positions during the flight.
Right.
So at the end it's quite fair. And a Discus has the advantage that it is a very light glider and has a quite big wing. This means I have a wide variety of wing loading,
right?
And because we are all allowed to fly maximum 45 kilogram per square meter, and I can put quite a bit of water to reach this. And if it is weak conditions, or if we use the engine a bit more, then I can simply drop the water and have a lighter glider.
Good. So you think that this glider is the best one for you in this competition?
Not necessarily the best one, but we have it.
Right.
And it's a lot of fun to fly it. So I mean, normally this glider is used for long cross-country flights or in club operation. But here it is a fully competitive glider in this contest with this special handicap system we have here.
Okay. And can you tell us a bit about the scoring rules, because it's quite different from a normal gliding competition?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, each day the winner gets a zero, and it's a kind of little bit like the Tour de France culminating time assist. And this means the one who is behind the other. I mean, first maybe I have to start a little bit different. We all take off, or we all start on a regatta start, like on a Grand Prix.
Yep.
And because of the different distance, according to the performance of the glider, the idea is that the first one who arrives wins the day, and the next one gets the difference of time as a negative point or minutes, and this is elapsed on each day new. This means if the next one is 5 minutes later, he get minus 5 minutes, and this stays also for the next day. So
if he gets minus 5 minutes on the second day, he's minus 10 minutes.
Exactly.
And
yes,
if you arrive first, you're 0, and if you arrive first the next day, you're also 0.
That's it. Yes.
And
if you're very slow, there's a system that at a certain time, I mean, if you abandon the task, if you can't reach it, you get a special time, which is about 1.2 of the time of the winner. So on the first day, although I was 20 minutes later than the first, than the winner of the day, I only got 16 minutes because that was 1.2 multiplied by the time of the winner glide.
Right. Okay. And then, as you just to clarify, the whoever comes across the line first, but then everybody else, the handicap is then applied to.
Well, the handicap is applied automatically by the distance of the turn points.
Right.
Because we have each competitor has a different diameter. For example, the best glider here, the Mantis 3, has a 500 meter radius of the turn point, a typical beer can. It's an ant here. And I have, with a lower performance of my glider, I have about, depending on the day, today it is 4.2 kilometer radius on each turn point.
Right.
So I mean, I can turn already 4 kilometers in front of the better performing gliders.
Okay, so Grand Prix start and then first across the line.
That's it, yeah.
Very good. And so maybe you can tell us a little bit about how the race went yesterday, and maybe describe how you used the engine yesterday to good effect.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was an interesting day. At the beginning it was very, very weak, but it turned out to be a good day, and the breeze system started throughout the day, and I found out that this typical lifting lines we have here on the we didn't fly the parcours, but we flew the other ridges, which also in the breezes and the southerly wind system in the thermal. They did not work excellent. So it was without the engine, you could have wouldn't have been possible to keep the altitude flying from one ridge to the next. So whenever I arrived at a ridge, I simply used the engine a little bit. I only took about 5-6 kilowatt to increase my climb, combined with the lift of the the thermal, which was blowing on the ridge. My idea was to stop as little as possible. So actually I circled only 3 times yesterday. I circled initially right after the start line, like everybody else, just to have enough height. Then we had to go to the first turn point, and then I found a good lift, which brought me almost to cloud base. And the next, and then I only circled once for the rest of the task, because I was always trying to follow the lifting lines. And whenever I got too low, or when I was about to get too low, I switched on the engine to keep a good altitude, which brought me in the. And my idea was to bring me in the perfect altitude of the ridges. If you're too high, the lift is not so good anymore. If you're too low, the ridge doesn't work. So with the engine, you can more or less adjust the altitude of where you think you have the best lift conditions, and that was the key factor. In addition, I made a little mistake flying to Pic de Bure. I was a bit too low, and I could not find a good lift there. So I used the engine to climb a little bit to get to trying to get to the niveau where the lift, the good lift, it was starting. Actually, I didn't find, but I was a bit lucky that behind the Pic de Bure there was just a cumulus forming. So I flew to this cumulus with the help of the engine. I sent the lift, and at the end I found more than 2 meters, which gave me enough altitude to continue the task without circling anymore. And the nice thing is with the FES, it is possible to center the lift or to climb with the engine on. You know, because you have the advantage that you have very little noise, so you hear the variometer and the radio, you have hardly any vibration, and the best thing is because you have the propeller in the front and the total energy probe in the rear, you have a fully compensated varium. This means you can find the lifting lines, or you can center with the help of the engine the best lift, or you can increase the lift. And best of all with the FES is if you get to this kind of difficult points, for example, we have to cross a pass here just 25 kilometers out, and it's a very flat pass, and I'm always scared to fly over this, so I simply left some energy over, and with a nice altitude margin I flew without any risk and without any heart beating nicely over this pass, which brought me then easily back home.
All right, very good. And did you use your full energy allocation on the flight?
Actually not. I mean, I was not sure how good, how much sink there was just the last 50 kilometers, so I left some margin. So at the end, I could have spent another. I think I still had 15% reserve or so.
And that would be typical. You'd want to be coming with 15% reserve.
It depends on the task. I mean, if you have this key point right at the end, if you have to cross some difficult terrain, I would always keep some margin. And if you just come out of the flat, I mean, I would use the energy already earlier. And the idea is to use. I started already right after the start line. I started already the engine to drive high enough at the first mountain. So as I said, it's to look when you invest what quantity of energy, and this is about the most important thing to be fast here. Yeah.
Right. Very good. Thank you very much, Tilo, for showing us your glider and telling us about the competition. I hope you have a great day and win again today.
Well, for sure we will have a lot of fun. I mean, now the temperature is rising, so I think we will have a nice day. There are even some cumulus towards our first turn point, so let's see.
Yeah, okay, very good.